Hello, I'm Sue Andersen, grief guide and yoga teacher, dedicated to helping individuals navigate the challenging journey of loss. Welcome to Growth from Grief, where I aim to offer strategies to transition from the depths of grief to the path of healing. Whatever loss you are grappling with, here you'll discover support to ease both the physical and emotional burdens of grief. Together, let's embark on a journey towards strength, peace, and healing. I'm so glad you are here. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Growth from Grief. I'm Sue Andersen. This episode is going live on July 4th, Independence Day here in the United States. A time for families to get together, fireworks, barbecues, a day filled with joy, patriotism. But for those who are grieving the loss of someone, holidays can be particularly challenging. And I think July 4th is no exception. There's a lot of things that people like to do in terms of getting together. And you may have done that in the past. And just like that first Independence Day, if you will, when our forefathers brought forth the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, I want to share with you a Bill of Rights for grievers. Something that I think is really important for those of us who have experiencing loss to know that you can grieve in the way that works for you. So let me share these rights that I've put together. And also I want to share some of these similar Bill of Rights from two other sources that you might find helpful. So the first right for grievers is the right to express yourself in your own way. And I can't say enough about this. There are people who express emotions by crying. That's how they let out the emotions, right? They let out the grief by crying. They might cry in public. They might cry only in private. And there are others that don't feel comfortable crying, or that's not the way they express themselves. So I think that's important, to express your grief your own way and not focus on what other people are saying. So there's a lot of people out there that are telling you what you should or shouldn't be doing. And remember, it's your grief, it's your loss, and you should do what feels right for you. So expressing yourself in your own way, whether it's crying, whether it's, not crying, that's your prerogative. And likewise, you might just not want to talk about what happened. You want to be silent. I can remember people asking me details of when my first husband died, when my son died. These are things I don't really want to talk about, especially early in grief. I want to give myself the chance to talk about these things when it's comfortable for me. So you have the right to just not answer these questions. And don't let people pressure you into talking about something. And the people that are doing this probably don't have your best interests, right? Because if they did, they would honor the way that you felt. You have the right to rest. Oh my gosh, grief is so debilitating. It's exhausting. And there are days when you just need to lay on the couch. You're not being lazy. It's your body telling you that you need to rest. Your body needs this as a way of coping and dealing with this grief. So again, not letting people tell you what to do. Seek out opportunities to rest, to relax. If you are further along in your grief journey or grief process, restorative yoga is a great place to rest, right? So find a restorative yoga class. Take that opportunity to rest, to relax, to allow your body to rebuild. And again, don't let other people tell you what to do, what's best for you. You know what's best for you. You have the right to ignore other people's suggestions. There are well-meaning people out there that really don't know what to say. And there are well-meaning people out there that just want to kind of control you, or I don't really want you to feel bad. I want you to be back to your old self. So, one way you can be back to your old self is maybe do the things that you liked to do before. Well, that's nice. That's great, except you are never going back to your old self. How can you? This loss has changed you, and loss changes each person individually. So you can't go back to being the person before the loss. You are forever changed, and that's okay. So people are going to have all kinds of suggestions of things that you should do or not do, and you have the right to ignore every single one of these suggestions and do what you think is right. You have the right to not be rushed. Oh, it's been 3 months, it's been 6 months. Don't you think you should start dating? Don't you think you should start getting out? Don't you think it would be a great idea if you did X? No, it is not a great idea unless it's my idea. The griever, unless it's your idea. You should not be rushed into doing something, making some change. It takes time. Grief takes a lot of time. And there can be a lot of challenges along the way, a lot of decisions that have to be made. Think of something, for example, if you did lose a person very close with you, a family member, and maybe you have to go through that person's belongings. Now, some people, they feel like they need to go through those belongings very quickly, or circumstances may require that they move things out of an apartment or a house. But you can feel free and do what you feel is right with those things. So maybe you want to store them in your attic or your basement, or you don't want to look through them. You just want to put them in boxes because you can't deal with that right now. That's fine. You have the right not to be rushed. I have some items of my son's that after now 12 years, I've still held on to. Eventually I may decide that I don't need these, or I'll wonder why I'm still keeping them, but that's okay. They're in boxes, they'll stay there, they'll be fine. You have the right not to be rushed in this healing journey. Now, unfortunately, if you're working and your job requires you to come back after a very short period of time, 3 days, a week maybe, that's extremely difficult. And you have to make the decision based on your own financial capacity whether or not you have to go back to that job or you can take a little bit more time. So in that case, there is a little bit of rushing you back perhaps to a job, but you still have the ability to make a decision on what feels right for you if you can go back to that job, again, based on your financial needs. You have the right to make new traditions. And this is really important. So if every year on July 4th you went to a certain person's house for celebrations, for a picnic, and it just doesn't feel right. Maybe you went as a couple and you don't want to go by yourself. You can forego that this year if that feels best. And then next year, maybe make a new tradition, something new that you want to do. And that something new could honor this other person. You have the right to reach out for help or not. There's a lot of avenues in terms of reaching out for help. There is an avenue of group therapies. Churches, community organizations have grief groups, and they might not be applicable to your loss, so that might not be appropriate. But there are groups out there. There are also individual counselors, whether you can see somebody in person or, online. But that's your right, that's your prerogative when you feel you need it. So again, sometimes it feels right to be in the company of others that understand what you're going through, and other times it doesn't. So that's your right. You have the right to do that. This one is a favorite of mine, and that is the right to create your own healing rituals. So what does that mean? Let me give you a couple examples. So for me, after my son died, my ritual was early on, once a week, to go to the cemetery. I like to go by myself. I went. I was able to plant flowers around the headstone. This was a ritual that was really important to me. And even though I talked to my son and talked to my son every day, this just felt like a little bit closer. I felt like I could tell myself I'm going somewhere. I'm going to see my son. And that was my ritual. And I was not able to continue going every week. I went once a month. And to a certain extent, I still do that. And so that was one ritual that was important to me that I did, regardless of what anybody else said. Oh, why are you going to the cemetery after 10 years? Well, because I want to, right? It's important to me. It's my little ritual. It's something that I do. Other rituals could be things like prayers, Maybe you get up every morning and you say a prayer. That's a ritual. Maybe you give thanks, a gratitude, you know, for each day. Even though you've experienced this loss, maybe this gratitude ritual is helpful to you. There are all kinds of things that you can do, and you can do them on your own or you can do them with other people. You have the right to experience joy. Yep, joy. You have the right to laugh and cry at the same time. You have the right to feel happy and to feel sad. You have the right to experience joy. I remember being with some of my friends, having lunch and just sitting there laughing and being so surprised that I was laughing. You know, I wanted to cry right after that, but it just felt so good. And that little bit of joy was just, I was very grateful for it. And I was very grateful for them that they felt comfortable in being with me and that we just had a laugh. It was just a wonderful opportunity in the midst of pain and heartbreak. You have the right to honor your feelings. So do what feels best for you during this holiday and every day. I also want to mention a couple of other resources that I'll post in the show notes. But you can find a really great graphic about Bill of Rights. What are the rights that you have on Megan Devine's website, refugeingrief.com, and also the Mourner's Bill of Rights from the Center for Loss and Life Transition. And I'll post those links in the transcript in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.